Hello everyone, welcome back to the AWS Cloud Engineer Essential Series. My name is Dheerajchoudhary, and in today's video, we are going to take a deep dive into one of the most important AWS security services, that is Identity and Access Management, which is also known as IAM. So IAM is the backbone of AWS security and it controls who can access what, ensuring your cloud resources remain protected. Whether it's creating a user, managing groups, assigning roles, or attaching a policy, IAM helps you define permissions in a secure and a scalable way. By the end of this session, you will not only understand how IAM works, but also gain clarity on best practices like enabling MFA, using least privilege, and rotating the keys to keep your environment safe and secure. So let's get started and explore how IAM shapes the foundation of AWS security. So, what exactly does IAM do? At its core, IAM is all about securely managing users, their permissions, and access to AWS resources. Imagine you're running multiple application and teams in your AWS account. Not everyone should have the same level of uh, access, right? For example, suppose if you have a team of uh, developers and a team of administrator, so developer team would have more access towards the development part, not the admin part, and the vice versa. Admin part won't have access towards the development part, but it will have more access towards the administrative tools. So with IAM, you can create individual users, decide what actions they can or cannot perform, and control which AWS services or resources they can reach to. This ensures that only the right people with the right permission access your cloud environment or your cloud application. In short, IAM gives you the power to decide who is allowed inside your AWS house and what rooms they can enter inside your house. Now let's talk about IAM users. So an IAM user is basically an individual identity in AWS. It could represent a real person like a developer on your team or even an application that needs to access any specific AWS resources. Each IAM user is given unique credentials, usually a username and password for the console or access keys for programmatic access through the CLI or SDK. A key best practice here is to create a separate IAM user for each individual instead of sharing accounts. Because if you're going to work in an enterprise, during the student phase or learning phase, you use one credentials with multiple people or multiple friends of yours. But when you work in enterprise, you cannot. Your credentials are only yours and it has to be used by you only. So and finally, a very important note, never use the root user for daily task that you're going to perform. The root user is the root account has full access, that is unrestricted access. So it should only be used for very specific administrative actions like billing setup. For everything else, always use IAM users with right permission. Now let's talk about IAM groups. Before talking about IAM groups, let me show you how the IAM user console looks. At the end, we are going to have a walkthrough of it. But before that, I thought of showing you what exactly a IAM console looks. So in IAM console, when you click on users, this is the user console where all your users would be listed. Right now, you will see I have only one user created over here. But later on, at the end of the video, I will show you how you can create a user groups and how you can associate them. So this is how, in short, your user landing users are being listed as part of this IAM console. Now let's go back to our slide and see what's next. So now let's talk about IAM groups. Think of groups as collection of IAM users, a lot of IAM users together, one group. Instead of assigning permission to each user one by one, you can put users into a group and manage permission at the group level. That reduces your work. For example, you might create a group called developers. You give this group permission to work with EC2 instance. Once that done, any user you add to the developer group will automatically inherit those permissions as soon as you add them as part of that specific group. So you don't have to repeat the same setup for each person again and again. So if I have created a user XYZ and I have given him the permission of developer, then a new user joins in. His name is ABC. then again I will do the same. But instead of that, I create one group in which whenever a new user is coming in, XYZ or ABC, and those are developers, so I will immediately add them to developer group, and all the permissions assigned to the group will be inherited by the IAM users. So the idea of bulk permission saves time and it reduces the chance of mistakes. If you ever need to update your permission, you can update the group once and every users inside that group get the change instantly. A simple analogy is like a school classroom you can consider. Instead of telling each student individually about the class rules, the teacher sets rules for the entire class. Every student in that class follows the same rules. Similarly, IAM groups makes it easy to enforce consistent policies for teams. So, IAM groups are really about simplifying management and keeping permission consistent, especially when you have many users as part of your team or organization that you have to handle under some specific niche groups. So let me show you the console of user groups also. So this is how your user group console looks, and over here you will see the list of all the user groups that you have created. Right now we don't have any. We would be looking that later in our video now. Now let's see what's next. So now let's look at IAM roles. So roles in AWS are a way to provide temporary credentials to trusted identities or entities. Instead of creating long-term usernames and access keys, roles give short-lived access that can expire. So this adds an extra layer of security because there are no permanent keys lying around. If you are creating an IAM user, you have a username and password and a key associated to that if it has a programmatic access. But whenever the user leaves, you have to make sure that that IAM user has been deleted or archived. But in terms of IAM roles, you are going to give it short term. So it will be for specific time duration. After that, it will expire automatically, which reduces your workload. So IAM roles are often used by AWS services, application, or even external users who need to access resource in your account. A very common example is attaching a role to an EC2 instance so it can directly access an S3 bucket without you having to hardcode credentials inside your application. The best part is with roles, there are no password or static keys that you have for IAM users. Access is assumed dynamically, which makes it both safer and easier to manage. So in short, IAM roles are all about secure, temporary and flexible access to your AWS resources. So let me show you how your roles console looks. So this is how your role console is, and over here you can see these are the by default created roles by AWS. Few of the roles are created by me, but many of the roles are created and available from AWS itself based on the operations that we perform. So many times we just go ahead and select this role and attach it to EC2 instance or any other AWS resource that you want to provide access to. So let's get back to our slide. Now let's deep dive into IAM policies. This is very important. So policies are actual permission documents that define which actions are allowed or denied in AWS. So these policies are written in JSON format, as you can see over here. This is how it has been written in the JSON format, which makes them both machine readable and human readable. Each policy clearly specifies the action someone can perform. For example, whether a user can read from an S3, launch an EC2 instance, or manage RDS databases. Policies are the fine-grained control mechanism behind IAM. If you see on the screen, the JSON policy that you have. So over here, what we are trying to do is we are saying that allow access to S3 :get. So whatever get operations are there, when we are going to attach this IAM policy, the user is going to get access to all the get operations. Then for S3 :list star, it is going to get access to all the list operations while it is going to access the S3. So this is how you are just providing him to get the content from that S3 and list the content from that S3. So it is a read and list permission. It is, you cannot write into that or you cannot upload and document. So that is how you have just provided a small proportion of access to a specific user. So you can attach policies to users, groups, or roles depending on how you want to manage the access. That's how AWS links the permission logic to identities. Here's a simple example. A policy that allows read-only access to S3, as we saw. With just a few lines of JSON, you can control who can list, get objects from the buckets, but not performing any other changes. So in short, IAM policies are like the rule book for AWS permissions, and they define exactly who can do what and where. And if you go to the policies console, and this is how your policy looks. So this is a by default policies which are been AWS managed. You can see the type is AWS managed. So AWS has created these policies, which are available based on a specific operation. So if I say EC2 over here, see, it will show all the EC2 operations. So if I want a full access to EC2, I can just use this policy. If I need only read only access to EC2, and if I write S3 over here, it will show the same S3 full access, S3 read only access, S3 only table access, full access, outpost access. That is how you can uh, attach the policies to the specific resources. Now let's go back and see what's next. So now is the time where we are going to implement what we have studied. So I will take you from scratch that how you can open the IAM console and how you can create user, create groups and assign a user to a specific group, and how you can create a role for a EC2 instance to access S3. Instead of creating a role for EC2 instance, because I have not covered that, I will just show you that how existing roles can be attached to any of the existing S3 bucket. Now, for that, what we are going to do is first we are going to go back to our console. Now, this is your console. As soon as you log in, you're going to land on this page. So when you have to access the IAM console, what you have to do is you have to go over here and type IAM. Once you type, you will see the IAM over here, manage access to AWS resources. Click on this. As soon as you click on this, the dashboard will open here for you. Okay. Now, once the dashboard opens, on the left hand side, you will see the list of options available that we spoke about. So suppose if you have to create user groups, you can go in user groups and click on create group. Same for users, same for roles, and same for policies. Now, what is our task that we are going to perform? First, we are going to go inside IAM and search for IAM. That we have done. Now we are going to go ahead and create a user. For that, we will click on users and I will click on create user. Once I click on create user, I will say demo underscore user. And if I click provide user access to AWS Management Console, it will provide access to the AWS Management Console. Okay. Or if you just want the user to have programmatic access, that is, the user can just log in from just perform operations by using AWS CLI. In that way, we will give programmatic access. Okay. Now, over here, it's saying, are you providing console access to a person? So it's a user type. Specify a user in Identity Center, or I want to create an IAM user. So we want to create an IAM user. So once I click on that, you will see it is given me. As I said, when you create an IAM user, you have to create username and password. So now it is asking us to create password. So you can create password in two ways. One is auto-generated. That what you can do is once it is created, you can view the password after the user is created as part of this 4-step process. That is, see, retrieve password over here. Or you can just click on this custom password and you can provide your own password. So for the current moment, I am providing a password as ABC123. Don't use this password. This password is not up to the mark. Otherwise, what I will do, I will just use auto-generated because that would be as per the policies and standards. And now it says user must create a new password at next sign in recommended. No, I don't want user to create a new password at next sign in. I am going to use the auto-generated password. Okay, so I have unchecked that. Then I will go ahead and click on next. Once I click on next, it is asking me to set permissions. So at the current moment, I am not going to attach any policies directly. We will do it later from the groups. Okay, so it is asking add user to a group. We don't have any group, right? So copy permissions. So if there is an existing user, I can copy the permissions of that user to this user also. I don't want to do that also. Attach policies. I don't want to attach policies at the current moment. So what I will do, I will say add user to group. So in this way, it is saying get started with groups, where it is asking me to create a group first. I will create a group now, and I will give a group name as developers. Okay. Once I create a group name as developer, I am just going to click create user group. Now a user group developer is been created. Okay. Now add user to group is selected. So automatically the new user that we are creating right now is going to be added to developers. Set permissions boundary. If you want to add any permissions boundary, which is the advanced part, you can do that too by selecting this option. Then click on next. Once you click on next, it is giving you the details that what all we have done. First, we have given the username, then we have selected the auto-generated password, and then we have informed that we don't want to reset the password once the user login for the first time. Then, as part of permission summary, we have not given any permission to the specific user. And as part of tags, if you want, you can also add tags. But at the current moment, as it is very basic, I'm not adding it, but it is a best practice to add tags. Usually, I would recommend adding tags to the group level instead of user level, because that is more manageable. Now I will go ahead and click on create user. See, now the user is created, and I will just click on this. It is showing me the password. I will copy this password and keep it with me. So it will be required at the time of login. So once that is done, I will just click on a return to users list, and now you can see our demo user has been created successfully. And if I click on user groups, my group is also been created successfully. Now the group that has been created, I am going to click add users, demo user, add user. So my user is now part of this. Now if I click on users, it is showing 1 instead of 0 over here. So now both are being associated. Next, now I am going to go to our next step. That is, we are going to assign a permission to our group. So how you can do that? So go to user groups, open your group, and over here you can click on permissions. Once you click on permissions, over here you can search for any policies that you have created. So we have not created any policies at the current moment, but the available policy that we have, I will attach. Click on attach policy. It is going to take me to the policies console. Over there, I will just search for S3. Okay, I want to give full access to S3, so I will just select this policy and I will go here and say attach policies. Now this policy has been attached successfully to my developers group. Now if I create n numbers of users and if I allocate them to this group, they are going to have full access, end-to-end access to the S3 bucket. Now what kind of access or permissions they are going to have, how you can understand that? Click on this plus sign, and once you click on this plus sign, it is saying that S3 colon star, which means you can do everything over here. So this is a wildcard that we have used over here. So previously in the slide, the last slide, let me show you. We restricted them to just perform get operation and list operation. But over here, instead of specifying which operations they can perform, we have said that they can do anything. That is how it is Amazon S3 full access. The permission is been granted. So this is how you can provide permissions to your groups. Now, once you provide permissions to your group, let's see what's next. So by doing this, what we have seen so far. So we have so before we conclude, there are some best practices that I want you guys to know. So those are the first one is enable MFA. So that is multi-factor authentication, which adds an extra layer of security, especially for the root accounts and the privileged IAM users. So when I log into my console, to be honest, I have my MFA enabled. In that, what happens when you enable the MFA, you can install the Authenticator app, in which you can align the MFA as part of your authenticator. So whenever you're going to log in, you are going to give your username, you're going to give your password, then it is going to ask you for a MFA code every time you log in, which gives an extra layer of security. Next is the principle of least privilege. Always grant the minimum set of permissions that a user or a service actually needs. Don't hand out admin right unless absolutely necessary. So as part of this example, we have done the opposite, which is not recommended, because I have done S3 star, which is a wildcard which says I can do anything in S3. But if a developer has been assigned to create buckets, he should not be able to delete them, modify them, or remove them. So these operations, you have to take care of it. That is why we say that provide least privilege. So if a user is been assigned to only read the S3 bucket, just provide the read permission. If he's going to perform the developer activity, just provide him the access for read, list, and modify. Don't give him the access for delete, because usually in enterprise we never give access for delete to anyone because it is dangerous. Third, rotate your access keys regularly. So long-lived keys are big security risk. By rotating them, you can reduce the chance of misuse if they ever get exposed. Suppose if you have uploaded your keys somewhere in a place like GitHub, which can get exposed, people can use it and they can automatically misuse it. And lastly, always enable monitoring. So use tools like IAM Access Analyzer and AWS CloudTrail to track activity, detect unusual patterns, and prevent unauthorized access. This is the advanced part, but let me show you what exactly I'm talking about. If you go over here, see there is an Access Analyzer. If I click this Access Analyzer, this service actually helps you to go through the access which are being provided. So in this, what you have to do is see Resource Analyzer. You have to create an analyzer which is going to analyze the users or groups that you have created, and it is going to tell you that what all extra permissions you have provided which can be security risk. So this is the advanced part that you will know once you become a good cloud engineer after doing this tutorial. Now, remember, the best practices that I spoke right now are not optional. They are the essential habits that you have to build from day one, which actually keeps your AWS environment safe and secure. Now, concluding to what exactly we have seen is that how IAM forms the backbone of AWS security, starting from users, groups, and roles, all the way to policies, console walkthroughs, and best practices at the end that we just saw. I hope this video gave you a clear understanding of how to manage access securely in AWS. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions or need further clarification, feel free to go ahead and comment that in the video below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next tutorial in the AWS Cloud Engineer Essential series. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.